Welcome to Mind Body Monday, and thank you for joining me. In today's session, you are going to learn my 7 secrets to have healthy, happy energy and incredible mitochondrial health. And you'll see exactly how those two are related. You're going to meet your mitochondria, understand a little bit more about them, and learn and apply my 7 secrets to reclaim your vitality and mitochondrial health at any level. And live Q&A at the end. So let's tuck in. It's no exaggeration that we are dealing with an epidemic of chronic health issues, diseases, dysfunctions, inflammation. And what I'm seeing in my clinic is that this is happening to the younger and younger population. Just today, I got an email from a patient of mine in the UK who said his son has just been diagnosed with diabetes. Is there anything that can be done? And childhood obesity, diabetes type 2 is rampant. And knowing this knowledge is part of my mission and passion to share and empower others to really not only help yourself, but also help future generations, children, grandchildren, and those in your circle of influence. A large percentage of my patients, and when I'm speaking to local doctors and practitioners also, they say their patients too are suffering from an exhaustion, and I'm not going to say inexplicable exhaustion, but that's what it feels like to the patient. Chronic conditions, be it thyroid issues, autoimmune diseases, digestive problems, brain fog, anxiety, joint pains and stiffness. There's so many itises, and it doesn't have to be that way. So if you wouldn't mind just joining me in a little exercise, type in the chat, rate yourself from 1 to 5. 5 is great energy, 1 is really low energy. So just type 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. 5 is great energy and 1 is low energy. Just type in the chat what you experience on an average day. So I'm just looking at my screen. Someone's saying 3, someone's saying 2.5. Very good. Who else? Type in the chat, and if you're watching the replay, type in the comments. If you can rate your energy levels from 1 to 5, 5 is great energy. 1 is get back into bed sort of thing, low energy. Where would you put yours? Now go ahead and rate your mood from 1 to 5. 5 is happy, upbeat, and 1 is depressed, down, lack motivation, and anything in between. Go ahead and just type that in the chat. Give me a sense of who is in the Zoom room today. 3, 3, 4. Very good. Excellent. Wonderful. Someone else has put in a 4. Fantastic. Okay. So if you joined me on Mind Body Monday last week, I spoke about the exciting field of epigenetics, and the bottom line that came out, aside from all the practical tips I shared, is that our DNA does not equal our destiny, meaning that whatever DNA you were born with, it impacts about 20 to 40% of your health and well-being. 60 to 80% of your health and well-being is determined by your lifestyle choices, what you eat, how you sleep, the exercise you get, the social groups you hang out with, the thoughts you think, etc. And these influence our genes. So that is very, very empowering to know. And last summer, I re-aired my free 4-part End Fatigue and Boost Your Mood and Vitality series. And today, in today's Mind Body, I'm going to share with you just some of the key takeaways from that session. So because so many people wrote into me, acknowledging how much help they got, not only raising their levels of physical energy and vitality, but also boosting their mood and general outlook in life from that 4-part series. The focus for today is going to be all about mitochondrial health. And if you're asking what are mitochondria, or what on earth have they got to do with anything, hopefully by the end of this Mind Body Monday, you'll be a little bit more wiser in this respect. And if you know already, then you'll be able to hopefully put into place and practice some of my 7 strategies that I'm going to share with you. So let's just begin that that mitochondria are these tiny little organelles found in every single cell in the body, and they are the powerhouse of the cell. They're the little nuclear power stations that produce ATP, produce energy for the cell and for and for our body. And as we age, the mitochondria's ability to produce energy drops quite significantly. And three things happen when a person ages. And by doing the 7 strategies that I'm going to share with you, you can soften that, you can slow that down, you can prevent it from happening. And there's so much that you can do to avoid that completely. So the first of these 3 things that happen as we age that we can really impact through the 60 to 80% of our lifestyle strategies and the 7 steps I'm going to mention shortly, is that the first thing that happens is our mitochondria gets damaged. That's basically DNA mutations. They don't have the wherewithal, the internal machinery to repair and to support themselves. No, that's the first thing. The second thing, there's an increase in something called free radicals, and this is not a good thing. Free radicals produce oxidative stress, and this, hear me out, because if this sounds too sciencey or too technical, you'll see there's a reason for me sharing this, because if you understand this piece, you'll have more leverage over yourself to help yourself. If you cut a fruit like an apple in half and you leave it on the table or over in the open air, there's something called enzymatic browning, where that apple gets brown. This is called oxidative stress. And the same thing happens inside our cells. And this damages the cell. Not only that, these free radicals, which are single oxygen cells that are very unstable, they go rummaging around through the body looking for a partner in life. And in that process, they damage cell membranes and cause disease states in the body. So managing free radicals and oxidation is very important in general, and specifically as we age. So you've probably heard about antioxidants. So antioxidants, they work against oxidation by lending a couple cell, let's say, a molecule to this oxygen singlet. And as a result of that, it stabilizes the oxygen so it can just relax and not harm any of the body's cells. So the best form of antioxidants is obviously food. And I'm going to get to what those foods are. But there's also supplements that are called antioxidants, and they work to prevent this oxidation, which protects the cell, and most importantly, protects our mitochondria, which is making energy for our entire body. Now, the last thing, and this is really important, is as we age, the mitochondria drop in number and function. That means they become less, and their ability to function well is reduced. And this results in an overall drop in energy. Now, one of the cells in our body that contain the most amount of mitochondria are muscles. Hence, the heart is very, very rich in mitochondria because it's just pumping all the time. It has to produce lots of energy to contract for us. Now, as a person ages, they tend to lose muscle mass. And as a result of that, there's less mitochondria available because there's less muscles. And as a result, their ability to produce energy is diminished because they don't have the infrastructure, the muscles to support the mitochondrial function. So it's so important then to introduce from today, tomorrow, and as we age youthfully, healthy exercise. So it builds and maintains strong muscle, which will then help to produce more mitochondria, which will then help them create more energy for us. I just want to share with you some very interesting research about muscle health in general, because this is very, very important. Research shows that as muscle mass decreases with age, there is a high incidence of complications in surgery, longer hospital stays, and poorer quality of life. This is all totally preventable and reversible by building strong, healthy muscles for your body type and your body frame. In fact, last night, I went to a dear friend's bar mitzvah, and there was a man dancing on the dance floor, and some of the kids couldn't keep up with him. So I joined him, and then during the break, I went over to the corner and was talking with him, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind. Firstly, I complimented him on his dancing, and I said, do you mind me asking how old you are? And with a glee in his face, he said to me, I am 82 years old. And I just said, I'm so happy to see you in the prime of your life. I said, can I ask you, how do you do it? And he said, sure, I work out every day. So I said, what are you doing? We went over his workout routine, and I said, is this something you always were doing? And he said, not really. But he understood the importance of this and made a commitment and resolved to advance his health. Now, when I look around my community, there are a lot of people who are 10, 15, or even 20 years his junior that are either on walkers, walking around with poor posture, spending a lot of the day sitting, and don't have that vitality that this 82-year young, I'm not going to say 82-year-old man had. And it was just a delight to meet him and to talk with him about this. Made me very happy. That being said, I want to just share a story about my father. He should be well. He's going to be 87 years young this week. And 2 years ago, he was on the way to work, walking, and he lives in London, and a pavement piece of stone was sticking out, and his toe stubbed it, and he fell straight onto his face. Fortunately, he took my advice several years ago and has been committed to a pretty rigorous exercise program. He said to me, Avraham, all I felt was the pavement kiss my nose. So I said, what do you mean? His hands came out spontaneously to support him. He did not fracture his wrists or elbows or break his collarbone, because osteoporosis is rampant in these ages. He could have easily fractured his jaw, his nose, concussion, who knows what could have happened. But because he practices push-ups as part of his daily routine, he had the muscle strength and the speed, reflex to catch himself and prevent his fall. And he's at least 75, 76 kilograms. So that's a lot of body mass falling, and he protected himself. So I'm sharing this piece not only about mitochondrial health. He happens to have great energy because he has the muscle mass, which creates the infrastructure for more mitochondria, but he also works out, and I'm going to share with you that a little bit more in one of my secrets. So whatever age or stage you are at in your life, I invite you to find ways to ramp up your mitochondrial health by making them more available through having more muscle mass in your body. And you don't have to be a Mr. Universe or Mrs. Universe, so to speak. It's just about having the right strength for your muscle, for your body as you age youthfully. Wonderful. So let's just, it's Mind Body Monday, folks. So on Mind Body Monday, we practice one of the Mind Body Monday breathing techniques. So for today, this is the audience participation section. So if you're sitting down, I invite you to sit up in your chair and taking a nice deep breath in through your nose. And as you breathe out, gently push your shoulders down. So you feel a gentle stretch on your neck through pursed lips, blowing all the air out. So you squeeze the air out of your belly. And another nice deep cleansing breath in. And as you breathe out, relax your neck and shoulders, soften your chest, relax your belly. And then once more, deep cleansing breath in through your nose. And as you breathe out, relax your back, feel your feet resting on the floor and sitting up alert. as we're going to walk through the 7 secrets of mitochondrial health. Taking deep breaths in is not just a good pause opportunity, but it is a fundamental pillar to fantastic health. And last week's Mind Body Monday, I went into some of my favorite breathing techniques, my personal best of what I practice most days, and share that with you. But also, breathing in this way, 3 deep breaths, oxygenates the brain, relaxes the gut through stimulating your vagus nerve, and gets more oxygen into the mitochondria so it can produce that needed energy, ATP, to fuel our bodies and our minds. Let's pick up. Super. So just remember that 60 to 80% of your health is really in your hands. 20 to 40% is genetic. There's not too much we can do about that. There is some amazing research about hacking that, but that's not the discussion for today. At least the 60 to 80% is in your hands. And through the following 7 steps, you're going to learn to activate mitochondrial health to increase your energy and advance your health and well-being at any age. So let's jump in. The first one is something called activating mitohormesis. That's M-I-T-O, mito, hormesis, H-O-R-M-E-S-I-S. For those of you who haven't heard of this strange sounding word. Hormesis is when our body is exposed to mild stresses. And when we are exposed to these stresses, then healing pathways are activated in our body. Inflammation is significantly lowered. It boosts tissue repair in the body, and it kickstarts the metabolism and many, many more other health benefits. That's hormesis in general. It's positive stresses. Now, there are specifically negative stresses, which are always going to be that way, but positive, the impact of positive stresses are some of the things I'm going to share with you shortly. But what these do is create a reciprocal benefit, an adaptive response within the body. So our mitochondria are highly susceptible to damage from external stresses, like refined foods, specifically sugars, glucose, corn syrup, and things like that, processed foods, processed oils like canola oil, which is in a lot of commercial products like mayonnaise, toxic chemicals, X-rays, and chronic stress. These cause stress to the mitochondria and cause all those 3 things of advanced aging occur prematurely. So this causes this mitochondrial dysfunction and leads to chronic diseases. But the intentional use of good stresses actually preserve health and help the mitochondria get rid of damaged cells, damaged ones, and stimulate them to work better. So in short, when the mitochondria, when mitochondrial hormesis occurs, which we abbreviated to mitohormesis, mitochondrial hormesis, this is a positive stress, controlled positive stresses that initiates this adaptive response in the mitochondria, and it's an extremely positive thing. Now, one of the ways I do this, and it's not for everybody all the time, but I'm going to share with you some ways that you can have a version of this, is that I take a cold plunge every morning. I have a plunge pool. It's about 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit approximately, and I'm actually beginning to walk it down to lower degrees as well. And yes, when I go, it's after 5 in the morning, it's dark, like the weather today, it's rainy, it's cold, it's not fun, but it's a positive stress. When getting into this cold plunge, it causes the mitochondria to produce energy over time in order to compensate for this minimal stress. I'm not in there all day. I'm in there for a short amount of time, just the right amount of time to give me that dopamine rush, that feel-good factor, that sparkle and feel alive all day long. So it's a very powerful morning ritual. Now, not everybody has access to a cold plunge pool or is willing to do such a thing. There are many reasons I do it. One of the reasons is to take advantage of this mitohormesis. Another is equally important, but it's really to do with a mindset. because most of life is uncomfortable. Most of life doesn't go our way. And by training myself to do things that are uncomfortable, then when things do meet me, there's a greater likelihood of handling them in the way that I would like to, because it's not the first time I've met an uncomfortable situation. So there are many other benefits for this cold plunge that was discussed in last week's Mind Body Monday. But if you don't have an ice bath, don't worry. There are other easy ways for you to get these benefits. And for some of my patients, I recommend to take a cold shower. Now, this does come with a little bit of a warning, meaning if you have a hot shower or a hot bath, that's great. The invitation here is to end with a cooler shower afterwards, because just that mild change in temperature is the first step towards training your body and your mind, your constitution to deal with colder exposure. So I would not recommend someone who is cold by constitution or has circulatory issues to do this treatment. But it is recommended after a hot bath or shower just to end off with cool and over time gradually change that to be slightly colder as you go along. And that way you will be able to baby step your way to getting a cold, benefits of the cold. Another thing you can also do at home is to have a hot bath or a hot shower and then immediately go into the cold bath or cold shower. And this alternating hot and cold has been shown to stimulate this mitohormesis, and you get a lot of these benefits at home without investing in any other hardware. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2 is something I call NDE, which stands for nutrient-dense eating. This is essentially a whole food, plant-based diet, which includes tons of green leafy vegetables, things like kale and bok choy and beet leaves and broccoli, and foods like garlic and green onions. These are rich in phytochemicals and also sulfur. And these phytochemicals are very powerful anti-inflammatories and antioxidants, which protect the mitochondria and support them and help them to produce the energy. So this is a very important pathway to preserving our mitochondrial health, is nutrient-dense eating. And the corollary of that is really to stay away from those foods that are toxic, that are harmful, because those damage the cell membranes and damage mitochondrial function, and as a result, make the body more susceptible to low energy, low moods, and disease states. My favorite topic's got to be number 3, right? Which is ensure a healthy gut and a robust microbiome. So if you've been following me on my Mind Body Monday, you know that this is the big one. This is very, very important, because having a healthy gut and a healthy microbiome will facilitate proper digestion. That means all the nutrients got to go into your blood, and from there into your cells, and from there into your mitochondria, and give the mitochondria everything they need to produce that needed energy, turn off inflammation, and promote healing in the body. So it's a really important one. There's certain foods that I call biome busters, from biome busters. These things you want to avoid, and those are alcohol in excess, and acid foods, and sugar, and gluten. Very often, anybody with any health issue, I've just seen over the last many years in practice, that when the person clears gluten from their diet, and it could take some of the markers could show up 18 months later. So it's not just like 10 days off or 3 months off, but it could be, depending on each person's situation, getting off gluten will really, really, in general, help a person to ramp up their health. Processed oils I spoke about, and dairy products are also implicated in damaging the microbiome. And then there are the biome builders, those foods that build the microbiome. And those are generally fresh vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds. Sprouted is great. The prebiotics, the postbiotics, the general probiotics, all these are very important. The cultured vegetables, fermented foods like kefir or sauerkraut, these are fantastic, and various fibers to support microbiome function. And all this will trace all the way back down to your cells and impact your mitochondria in a very wholesome way. Let's look at number 4. The fourth secret to getting great mitochondrial health is another topic of mine, which is called time-restricted eating, or something also known as intermittent fasting. Not only does intermittent fasting reset your gut by giving it a break and therefore helping your whole body regroup, but this is also another form of hormesis. It's a positive stress if you know how to do it well. I've given a class on this before, so see my previous Mind Body Monday on intermittent fasting. And this helps the body adapt to this positive stress, and it helps detox the body, clean the lymph. And when you do eat, it will help your body to absorb better the foods you're having. And as a result of that, increase mitochondrial health through better digestion. Let's look at number 5. Number 5 is regulate your light exposure. So at night, towards an hour or so before bedtime, it's most advised to stay off screens, either your phone or the computer, etc. There's the emission of blue light from the screens, and that prevents melatonin production in the brain, and that prevents deep sleep, and that affects your mitochondria through a whole cascade. So staying away from the negative light before bed, and equally important, is to get good light first thing in the morning, preferably sunlight. And if you don't have sunlight, then you can get yourself a light box. Amazon sells a number of these different light boxes. And when I treat people who are living in Europe, where there's a very short amount of sunlight and sometimes dark for extended periods of time, there's a known condition called SAD, seasonally affected dysfunction, where a person can get depressed just because they're not getting enough natural sunlight into their eyes. So getting natural sunlight into your eyes, into your face, is another way to stimulate mitochondrial health. Let's look at secret number 6, and that is develop an exercise routine that's appropriate for your body type and your age. And it should include some sort of HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training and strength training. It goes back to the discussion we had earlier on building healthy muscle mass, because the muscles contain a large amount of mitochondria. So when you work out and you build strong muscles, you're building more mitochondria. So therefore you have more energy available. And there was some recent research in PubMed that showed that this interval training helps to improve mitochondrial function. So whatever your current exercise level is at now, look to maintain it and perhaps even bring it up just one notch or so. And if you're not yet exercising because of inclement weather, then you can make plan B if you want. I'm recommending a lot of my patients do indoor exercises. I've got a whole series of exercises to help them at home, but it could just be starting with just walking is a great way to start, and then incrementally up that, working best with a trainer or a healthcare professional to guide you what sort of exercise is best for your body and how to increase it. Let's look at the last step for getting great mitochondrial health, and that is supplementation. Now, even if you're eating the healthiest diet you can, organic, homegrown, etc., our food chain is just polluted, and the quality of nutrients we get today are just not what it used to be. The power in our foods is just not what it has in terms of the nutrient density. So therefore, supplementation is always a good idea. I recommend to my patients, I mean, their foods, these are called supplements, right? So they're supplementing something. So it's a good idea to at least bring up the quality of the food you eat, so then you can add, you can supplement to that. It's also okay if a person's having a lousy diet to take supplements. Of course, any help is help. But at the end of the day, you want to get the double benefit and upscale your quality of the foods you're eating by eliminating the harmful foods, bringing more of the healthy foods that I discussed with you. And also then you can add some supplements. Now, there are many supplements that boost mitochondrial function. I just want to share my top 3 for today. I personally take a bunch of them, and what I take is some of these as well. The first is something called CoQ10, coenzyme Q10. It's a very important coenzyme to take as it helps the mitochondria, and a dose anywhere between 100 to 200 milligrams a day in general is a good thing to do. And certain medications eat up CoQ10. So that's important to know. If you are on certain medications, like some of the statins for lowering cholesterol, these damage CoQ10. So it's important to work with your functional medicine doctor, integrated medical doctor who knows about these drug-vitamin interactions, because if you are on these sorts of medications, then you want to take more CoQ10 to compensate for the lack that's happening as a result of the medication. One of the most richest organs in our body in CoQ10 is the heart, because it's just working so hard all the time. And these medications damage the CoQ10 reserves in the heart muscle. So it's really important to ramp that up. The next is something called resveratrol. Resveratrol is commonly found in quality red wine. However, there are supplements that are based on red wine, and then there are supplements that are based on food forms, not red wine. And taking resveratrol is also a very helpful and powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and mitochondrial booster. And the last one for today is a amino acid called L-carnitine. And for some of my patients, I recommend about 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day. Really depends on each individual's needs. But this is a very powerful amino acid to support healthy mitochondrial health. Wow, quite a long list. And these 7 secrets to having great mitochondrial health is really culled from a larger list. So I just really broke it down to my top 7 for today. So to summarize, taking care of mitochondrial health is essential for our long-term healthy aging youthfully, because that way it will help the mitochondria to produce produce energy, ATP, which when we have enough muscle bulk, then we'll have more mitochondria to do that. And now you have 7 amazing strategies to help you build mitochondrial health as you age. So thank you once again for joining me on Mind Body Monday. And just remember, Mind Body Monday is all about self-care is the heart of healthcare. All you need to do is take one small step in the direction of health and healing to advance yourself in mind, body, and soul. See you next week.